Hello everyone, this is Dr. Frank LaBanca, and it's my pleasure to take you on a tour of the Great Meadows Marsh in Stratford, a 423-acre spanning over 2/3 of a square mile in Stratford. Great Meadows is a very special place to me. I've taken many students here over the years, many classes, as well as students who wanted to conduct research, like Josh, who studied environmental toxicology with grass shrimp, and Caitlin, who used a Western blot to look for environmental stress in mussels. Bobby, Mary, Kate, and Maggie all at different times extracted the chitin out of crab shells to use as a different filter for different kinds of pollutants. Igor tested and made a mathematical model to examine the bioaccumulation of heavy metals and metallothionein. And Drew used different assays to study mummy-chog baitfish and use them as a bioindicator of marsh health. When you pull in, you can see the beach side, looking out at Long Island Sound. In the distance, you'll see the city of Bridgeport and the industrialization that is present there. When I went the other day, I saw a man kite surfing. I walked down the back path and was able to approach the marsh. Tide was about midway and it was going out at the time. Now we're taking a peek at the rack line. The rack line is the high tide point where material gets pushed up, but then stops when the tide goes out. I was looking at the marsh and I noticed these holes. These holes are typically found where crabs, fiddler crabs actually, might live down into them. You can dig for them if you'd like. And here is a plant called Salicornia, also known as glasswort. It's actually edible. The main vegetation is cordgrass, Spartina alterniflora. Spartina alterniflora lives symbiotically with ribbed marsh mussels. You actually can dig in around and actually find those mussels in the ground. Here's a bunch of mussels that were just exposed. I also found in the mudflat area these small snails. You can pick them up, you can actually see them inside of their shells. Here's a view of Lewis Gut. It's the area that always stays wet, whether it be high tide or low tide. As I started walking across the beach, I noticed the goldenrod, and the shells are abundant on the side. These shells are no longer living, but you'll see that there are tons and tons of them. The one I'm picking up right now is called Crepidula fornicata, or the slipper shell. It's called that because it has this shape that looks like a Cinderella's slipper. You can see that the organism would have lived on the bottom side that I'm showing here. Some of the other common shells you might find, here's one. It's a quahog, or a cherry stone, or a little neck clam shell. And these colorful ones are called jingle shells. They can be made to make nice decorations. And also very common are oyster shells. You can see, looking down the beach, all of the shells as it interfaces with the water. These man-made groins show the difference in the impact of the water. You'll notice the difference between each side where the land has eroded and piled up in different places. I walked out on the jetty so you could get a view of that erosion and deposition from the water view. Looking at the groin from a distance, you'll notice the intertidal zone where high tide and low tide meet, and the different colorations of the different organisms that live all along it. One of my favorite plants you might encounter is called the beach rose. It makes those purple flowers, and the fruit that it bears is what's called a rose hip. This is a really old one. They're all dried out this time of year, but I did find a bush that had the bright red ones. And these rose hips can be used to make jams, jellies, and they're also very common in herbal teas. I'm not sure what this plant is called. I'll do some research to try to figure it out. But it did have these pods where the seeds would have been. They were empty at this point, so this organism has spread its seeds. I noticed this interesting view with the radio towers, but then you can also see the bird's nest that was made, the smokestacks from the power plants in the distance. Thank you for taking my marsh tour. I hope you love it more even in person.